Okay everyone, we're going to be continuing with another video of a Warframe and giving them some proper scoring. We're going to be looking at Garuda. Garuda, of course, being a blood-based Warframe, a blood mage, I guess? Not really. Someone who basically practices in blood magic in order to make herself really powerful. Sometimes she covers herself from head to toe in blood. Sometimes it's her own blood. Sometimes it's her enemies'. We'll just have to see what she does. So let's have a look at her kit. Garuda has, of course, 4 abilities like everyone else. Her first ability is called Dread Mirror. It involves a great big leap that then summons a mirror that actually acts as a shield. This shield also absorbs damage, but you can also charge the blood bomb on top of the mirror, like so, which will then infuse it with some more damage before you throw it out, and it will do a certain amount of damage. Her second ability is called Blood Alter, and it basically skewers an enemy into some spikes from the ground, which basically makes them become a beacon of healing for both Garuda and her allies. Her third ability is called Bloodletting, and it's basically a trade of blood for energy. That's basically how it is. And finally, Garuda's fourth ability is Seeking Talents. The way it works is you channel to produce a cone that then throws talents at enemies, which inflicts them with a special status that will then force slash procs from incoming fire. Garuda's passive is that she gains more damage when she loses health. So for example, here we are with full health. You'll see an icon up there that says 0%. If I use Bloodletting to get rid of half of my health, it will jump up to 50%. And if I use Bloodletting again to get all but 2 of my health down, then I have 100% extra damage. Alright, let's look at Garuda's damage output. So her damage output is basically via a combo. The combo is simply this. You use Dread Mirror in order to actually produce a Dread Mirror and therefore summon a Blood Bomb. You then use Seeking Talents to throw talents at all of these enemies. You then charge up a Blood Ball and make sure that it hits everyone, and after a moment, they are all dead. Every last one of them. So this combo is actually really strong. It does scale really well with all levels. So what do I mean? Because it is slash procs against armored enemies, it doesn't matter what level they are. So even against level 100 corrupted heavy gunners, slash procs continue to go through armor. So that is not going to be a problem, and they are going to die just like that. But what if you come across enemies with an absurd amount of health? For example, level 100 Gokstat officers. They have 2000 health at base as opposed to the 700 health that a corrupted heavy gunner has on base. So at level 140 they tend to have a lot more health. Well, what you can actually do is you can actually use the Dread Mirror to start accumulating more damage. As you can see here, when you look up above the Dread Mirror, we're going up by about 70,000 damage, so you don't actually have to charge the Blood Bomb in order to get an absurd amount of damage. And then we will now inflict Seeking Talons, and then we're actually going to start charging the Blood Bomb. Now we're doing about 2 million damage. And that will kill these guys, except for this one who missed, unfortunately. But the idea is that you have 2 ways of charging the Blood Bomb. You could either actually just charge it by throwing energy into it, or you could actually charge it by leaping onto enemies and stealing a portion of their health. And of course, that portion of their health will scale depending on the enemy. So for example, if you're using a Corrupted Butcher as your target, you're only going to get a paltry 4,000 damage, so that's not particularly high. If you go up against a Corrupted Bombard, you're going to get 12,000 damage out of that because a Bombard has more health than a Butcher. If you go up against your Corrupted Heavy Gunner at level 140, that's 27,000 damage because, again, a Corrupted Heavy Gunner has more health than a Bombard. But your Exo Gokstat officer, or basically any Gokstat officer, will in fact give you a whopping 77,000 damage. That's why there are different ways to just scale this ability in an insane way. Otherwise, build that Blood Bomb. And also keep in mind that if you decide to charge your Blood Bomb will charge faster if it initially has more damage. So you may want to look at finding more enemies to leap into and siphon more blood into that Blood Bomb before you start charging it yourself. Now, before Warframe Revived came out, this combo alone would have given Garuda a 10 out of 10 damage score. However, Warframe Revived actually brought along something that is both a gift and a curse. It is shield gating, not just for ourselves, but also for our enemies. So, what do I mean? Let's say we use the exact same combo against these level 100 Amalgam Arca Hecates. And we charge the Blood Bomb. Unfortunately, it is not as effective, and that is because slash procs don't go through shields anymore. Toxin procs go through shields, but slash procs do not. That's the big change, and that is the big shift in the meta when it comes to damage over time. So when going up against shielded enemies, you may want to look at using something else like Garuda's Talons. So here we have our Hecate, who is already dead like that. And that is because the Garuda's Talons have access to one of my favorite stances in the game, and it's called Malicious Raptor. So this is the build that I'm going for with Garuda's Talons. It is a pretty standard status build because Garuda's Talons are not crit weapons. It is entirely possible to go for a heavy attack build such as this, but no, I don't think it's all that good, especially with that extremely low crit chance. So I tend to go for a light build instead, because just being able to use that normal combo from Malicious Raptor is one of my favorite things. While we're looking at builds, I will also show you the Garuda build that I have been running. So this is a 2-former build that I've actually been using. It's pretty damn strong. It is an Umbral build, and the only mod that is kind of flex here is Bloodforge, kind of in the middle of figuring out what I want to put for a 9 Dre mod. I don't really have anything else left to put there. Maybe Power Drift, but that's not really all that necessary. Rage is most certainly not necessary. So basically, like, that's the flex mod. You can use whatever you like. There's also this thing with Blood Altar where you can actually siphon off a portion of their health. It's not really all that effective, and I wouldn't use it for damage at all. So while slash procs from Seeking Talons may be less effective these days against shielded targets, it is still really good, and that alone will give her a 9 out of 10. But alongside that, you also have her talents that come when you decide to not equip a melee weapon. So because of that, altogether, I would actually award Garuda a damage score of 10 out of 10. Alright, let's have a look at Garuda's survivability. And right out of the gate, Garuda has an average amount of health, an average amount of shields, but a pretty high amount of armor. So I think in terms of the rankings, she has maybe one of the top 10 amounts of armor. So that's really good. Just like Oberon, a majority of Garuda's survivability capabilities can also be extended to her support capabilities, so let's get into it. Basically, everything to do with Garuda's survivability has to do with her Blood Altar. So, like I said, you skewer an enemy, and that enemy will start siphoning health in order to heal you. Now, what's interesting is that first off, you can actually use up to 3 altars at the same time. Okay? So, what you will notice is that with 3 altars, you are in fact healing faster than if you just had 1 altar. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that the Blood Altar heals a portion of your missing health. So, what that means is that when you are at lower health, you will heal a lot faster. If you pay attention to that number, you'll notice that at the start we came up by multiples of 100, and then towards the end we started to really slow down in terms of the amount of health that we were getting. For my build specifically, I am healing 38% of my missing health per second, so that is definitely something that you want to keep an eye on. So because it heals a portion of your missing health, what that means is that you actually want to build her for health, so using some form of vitality is probably a really good idea. That's why I am using Umbral Vitality on my build. Garuda has another way of surviving as well, and that is through her Dread Mirror. So basically the idea behind Dread Mirror is that it will block enemy fire that is coming from directly in front of you. Fire that's coming in from the sides, that's going to hurt you, but fire coming in from the front, that is going to be a-okay. And it also charges your Blood Bomb as well, so just keep those 2 things in mind. However, there is this thing to do with the Dread Mirror having an issue with enemies shooting your feet. So if you happen to be at a higher ground, you may notice that from time to time you're going to get hit. Apparently DE fixed it. I'm not 100% sure about that. I would probably still defer this particular opinion to someone like Allblade, who is a Garuda main. So if you want to ask him about that, that would probably be a good idea, but I suspect this is still a problem. So whilst Dread Mirror not covering Garuda from 360 degrees is going to have its own drawbacks, I think generally speaking Blood Alter's healing capabilities are really strong enough to carry a lot of Garuda's survivability. So because of that, I would give Garuda's survivability a score of 9 out of 10. Okay, let's talk about Garuda's support capabilities. Now, originally I thought that Garuda's support score was going to be pretty damn high, specifically because of that Blood Altar, but when you think about it, it's actually not that good. So, Garuda's support capabilities are only about her Blood Altar, the healing rate of course being really high if you decide to pair this with an allied super tanky Warframe like Inaros, Grendel, or even Nidus, so that would be really effective on them. But it's not strong at all if you use it with allied squishy Warframes like Ivara, Mirage, Loki, all of that stuff. Typically, it's the squishier Warframes who actually need that kind of support, who actually need that kind of outside healing in order to stay alive. So Banshee, those kind of Warframes, they will tend to want to have a healer of some sort so that they don't die. But the big tanks, they tend to have their own healing. Inaros has his own healing, Grendel has his own healing, Nidus, all of that stuff. Ironically enough, the best Warframes to make use of the Blood Altar healing, i.e. tankier Warframes, Warframes who have more health but can't heal themselves, are Zephyr Prime and Ash Prime. So if they are using some form of vitality, Blood Altar would actually be a pretty good way of supporting them. But, you know, they're not squishy Warframes, so based on everything that I've just said, I kind of have to award Garuda support capabilities a 5 out of 10. It's really that low healing rate for squishy Warframes is just not that good. It's going to be overtaken by basically every other healing ability in the game.
They won't be bothering us anymore. Let's get out of here.
Okay, let's talk about Garuda's crowd control. So Garuda has a couple of solutions for crowd control. Her first solution is to just use Dread Mirror. That will force a knockdown on the target. It seems to also knock back other enemies from time to time. So that is something you could look into. Her second solution, of course, is to use Blood Altar, which will skewer enemies. This is essentially a hard stun slash disable, so that's good. You could also use up to 3 of them, so you are effectively hard stunning 3 enemies as well if you use the Blood Altar in this manner. And finally, enemies who are affected by Seeking Talons are soft stunned, or I guess stunned in a sense, for a period of time while they're kind of covering their faces. So while Seeking Talons does have some sort of semi-powerful, I guess, crowd control, her other 2 abilities only provide single target crowd control. I don't think that this is all that meaningful in the way of crowd control, so I would only award her crowd control a score of 6 out of 10.
That was a close one.
Alright, let's talk about Garuda's kit usability, and I reckon the whole shot feet problem is just a bug when it comes to Dread Mirror. It's probably something that they will look into again eventually, if they decide to, because they, I guess, think that they fixed it before, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So ignoring that, I would say that Garuda's abilities are all really damn useful, especially Bloodletting. Bloodletting alone makes Garuda like an A+ Warframe in my opinion, but that's not how my scoring system works. So all of her abilities will receive a 2 out of 2 score because they're all really useful. Now, this is going to be controversial. I don't think Garuda's passive is all that useful. Okay? Because Garuda does a ton of damage already. I don't think she needs her passive to do any more damage. And then at the same time, Garuda's passive does require her to be in this precarious state of having less health, which is not really ideal, in my opinion. So, you could make it useful via a quick thinking build, that's fine, but when you're in a quick thinking build, the idea is that you have no health, but you have a lot of energy that you can then use for quick thinking. But when you don't have that much health, what can you not use? Bloodletting, which means when you run out of energy in a quick thinking build, you're basically screwed. So I personally will never run a quick thinking build. There are people who do, that's fine, you do you, but I don't recommend it at all. So, because I never personally make use of that passive anyway in my normal gameplay, I will have to give it a 0 out of 2 points. People who play around a passive will give it 2 out of 2 because just on paper her passive is really good. You get basically double damage when you have no health, so that's really good as well. But for me, her kit usability is going to be an 8 out of 10. So with a damage score of 10 out of 10, a survivability score of 9 out of 10, a support score of 5 out of 10, a crowd control score of 6 out of 10, and a kit usability score of 8 out of 10 for me, that brings our average score to 7.6 out of 10, which of course rounds up to 8 out of 10. I do find myself scoring a lot of WarFrames 8 out of 10 with this scoring system. Maybe that's just the quote-unquote average, but definitely Garuda is a very powerful and honestly rather easy to build Warframe, who has a very easy time killing most enemies in the game. The only enemies she might struggle against are Sentients and anyone else who has, I guess, status immune, but everyone is going to be struggling against Sentients except Mag. So, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Do you think Garuda is really good? Do you disagree with any of my scores or any of my assessments? Feel free to leave that in the comments. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Warframe content, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye!